he said, yes, he's autistic. He might have to be institutionalized.
I'm Dr. Norman Doidge.
Can you feel that catch?
Yes.
For years, I've been studying people told they'd never recover from their serious brain ailments.
He said she's profoundly retarded. She has global brain damage. She'll never develop.
Up. Down.
Scientists long thought that the brain was simply too complex to heal.
I had been told that the damage was permanent.
Everybody knows you don't get better with Parkinson's.
But what if the scientists were wrong?
This is life again. This is life.
What if it turns out that the mind's ability to help the brain form new connections, moment by moment, can foster a unique kind of healing? The brain's way of healing.
I think these guys are going to go for their morning swim or clean up or whatever it is that they have, a bath.
My walking companion is John Pepper. John was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease over 20 years ago.
I don't want to frighten them.
Parkinson's is irreversible. It continues to get worse. And then you invariably die of pneumonia or some other respiratory problem. Get used to it and get on with your life. That was what I was told. I wasn't able to write properly, wasn't able to walk properly, couldn't bring something to my mouth without spilling it, speaking properly, all those things.
But John moves too quickly for a typical Parkinson's patient. He's not showing the classic symptoms, the shuffling gait, tremors, the rigidity, and the loss of balance.
Come on, girls. Time for service.
John Pepper has not been on anti-Parkinson's medication for over a decade.
Is it nice and cool?
Instead, he's found a way to walk off his Parkinsonian symptoms. We've long known that the brain helps shape our mental experience. But now we know that the brain is neuroplastic, that mental activity can also literally reshape the brain. But can we use this plasticity to help any neurological conditions?
So I go through the routine, heel, heel, pushing up, because if I don't push up, my foot scrapes the ground and I'm immediately aware of it.
Conscious walking. If John doesn't do it, he slips back into this, a typical Parkinsonian gait. In order to move normally, John has to think about each and every step in detail.
He said to me he believes that he's able to perhaps access different pathways in his brain or create different pathways in his brain which are enabling him to go back to what he used to do, but consciously thinking about everything. So he said, I have to think about blinking, I have to think about swallowing, I have to think about all the things that I used to do without thinking. I've now got to consciously think about them, but he said when I do, I can do them.
John's conscious walking technique requires focused mental effort so that undamaged parts of his brain can take over the section ruined by Parkinson's called the basal ganglia. Normally, the basal ganglia work unconsciously to knit together complex movements like walking. But John's basal ganglia are damaged, so he activates another part of his brain instead, his prefrontal circuits, by consciously concentrating on each individual movement in the sequence.
Am I using two parts of my brain? Are there two parts of your brain, one when you're not thinking about walking and one when you are thinking about it? And the only conclusion I came to as a non-medical person without any training or anything was that the subconscious is not the same activity as the conscious brain.
Once John discovered, through trial and error, that concentration on micro-movements allowed some movement, he then got an added, unexpected benefit.
All right, let's have a look at your movements. So we look.
Walking 75 minutes every other day triggers brain growth factors that help us form new connections in the brain and improve the overall health of our brain cells.
I think it's changed much since I saw you last.
Enhancing cellular health is a key first stage of neuroplastic healing.
Put your hands out for me.
John's neurologist, Dr. Jody Pearl, first saw him in 2005.
It's okay. All right, just relax. You close your eyes. You close your eyes. Clinically, he certainly looked like a idiopathic Parkinson's disease. See, the tremor is worse on the right side. He had all of those symptoms. So I confirmed the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. Let's see again, your posture, and you're not too stooped. I think that he's amazing in the way he's able to exercise that degree of control. This is your conscious walking.
It's conscious, yeah.
Yeah, what are you concentrating on? Everything. I'm sure he's retrained his brain to do, those things which should be automatic in a person who has no Parkinson's disease. It's almost like he knew something before we all did.
New rigorous studies show that maintaining physical activity can improve the condition of people with Parkinson's and reduce the risk of getting Parkinson's.
I walk now 7Ks 3 times a week, as fast as I can, which is the medicine that I take.
John Pepper is not a doctor, not a scientist. In fact, he made his living in printing. But now in his 80s, he devotes his time to helping other Parkinson's patients learn his method of conscious walking.
Can you show us what happened? You lean forward, and then you start going faster and faster.
Everybody so far has been able to do it.
You can do it. Okay. Now I want you to take a longer step.
Even people who are bedridden have been able to get out, come to the meeting in a wheelchair, and I get them up on the floor and they walk perfectly normally.
Well done, Barry. You can smile for us now.
Nobody has failed to do that.
Are you tired? Yeah, I'm sure you are. Everybody you've seen today walking here has no confidence. They're not the people they used to be, and they just need to have something that works and improves to get that confidence back. And walking does this. You're going to be pretty fit when you get back home, And I know.
Walking gives John energy, which in turn makes him more active, further enhancing brain healing.
Why do you say that?
You're so full of zest,
And it's important here to acknowledge the role of energy.
This is 12 o'clock, so right?
Because for some people, energy needs to be introduced from an outside source.
Listen, you come in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I won't know.
These stories are about the new frontiers in non-invasive healing of conditions once deemed incurable. And while these techniques might not work for everyone, nothing does, they show us that the brain is often far more resilient than we ever imagined.
In this helmet, we have a little 2-axis accelerometer, and what it does is convert...
A number of years ago, I visited a neurorehabilitation lab in the US where they were using spikes of electricity to talk to the brain in its own language.
And your job...
I wanted to go back there to see how this approach has advanced in helping people turn their lives around.
I was a pretty active person. I had been called an overgrown, hyperactive child once or twice, maybe.
Look up. Look down.
I biked a lot. I did a lot of distance cycling. I just didn't sit.
And then what happened?
Well, I was cycling in one morning to my office, and what I remember of it is a car turned left into my path pretty suddenly, and it was February. I was on a little snow and ice, and I flipped the bike, came down on the back right side of my head, and broke my helmet. And I don't remember a whole lot more about it.
You doing okay?
Well, if you like a wobbling mess of clay, it's not too bad.
I got rear-ended, and it was at a stoplight. And then someone showed up at my window and said, "Are you okay?" And I had the worst headache I've ever had in my life. I've never had such a headache. And so then I went and I saw my primary carer, and she said, this isn't you. Something's really wrong with you, really wrong. This isn't you. I'm going to send you to a neurologist. I said, okay. You know, I'll go to a neurologist. I mean, I can't see. And that was my big thing, is I couldn't see. And I was like, I can't see. It's like I got Vaseline on my glasses. What's going on? And my brain's not working.
Look up.
Both Jerry and Kathy were told the effects of their injuries would be permanent.
Look down.
I spent 50 years feeling like I knew who I was, and now I didn't have a clue, you know. I was crying hysterically most of the time for months, probably.
For 5 years, Jerry couldn't make sense of what people said, had no memory or balance, and lost the ability to recognize human faces, even her granddaughters.
There was this brokenness in connection. People didn't look right, they didn't sound right. Everything was very disorienting, even about my own family members.
In fact, I think you and I used to joke that we wanted to put those things on our head, TBI, like a traumatic brain injury, like, look, there's something wrong up here.
What do you got over here I could use?
Got every kind of implement you need over there.
I think it was about maybe a year and a half after the injury that I started working with Clay for kind of occupational therapy.
And then we became
Next thing we were, the cracked potters.
She was
We would
crack
say-
potter 1, I'm crack potter 2.
Cracked.
We would say, the pots are okay, but the potters are a little cracked.
A little cracked. This is a cracked potter.
In a traumatic brain injury, some neurons die. Other neurons are damaged and misfire, giving off noisy signals, junk data, so they can't function either. The whole picture leads to what I call the noisy brain. It functions poorly, but not all the cells are dead. This is the University of Wisconsin. The scientists in the Tactile Communication and Neurorehabilitation Lab, TCNL, have been able to help people with traumatic brain injuries, stroke, cranial nerve damage, and multiple sclerosis.
So we're going to start off at 0.6 today. See how it goes.
The lab's method of modulating the noisy brain works by talking to the brain in its own language, patterns of electrical information.
So we're going to work on all the same things that we did yesterday when we were walking in the hall. Stand up nice and tall and look straight ahead.
How old were you when you got
I
MS?
want you to duck foot with your left and with your right.
27.
You're doing great.
When you came to this clinic and this research study, what symptoms did you have?
Whenever you're ready, go. 3 more steps.
I had a difficult time seeing. I couldn't walk.
And we are done. Good. Very nice.
I had a difficult time with about everything.
You don't need to worry about going fast. You want to think about every step being solid.
Now I walk over 2,000 feet. So I'm walking quite a lot.
Uh-huh. Nice. And you're still clearing that right foot really well.
Conventional wisdom is that MS is a neurodegenerative disorder. It's going to get continually worse and leading ultimately to death. The fact that we could slow the progression of the symptoms and reverse some of them, at first blush seems like a bit of a miracle, like it's just too fantastic to be believed.
Well, first of all, you have to switch power.
The device they use, called the PONS, can help improve so many different conditions because it resets a control center in the brain.
Click after click. In each click, you lifted one step.
And that's like champagne bubbles on my tongue. The tongue sits 4 centimeters in front of the deepest part of the brain, the brainstem. The tongue also has an intensely concentrated collection of nerve endings that are a direct highway into the brainstem. By placing the pons with its electrical stimulation points onto the tongue, we can make sensory neurons fire as they might when the tongue is being touched. We're not shocking the brain. The body is being used to talk to the brain through the senses.
This device we call the Portable Neuromodulation Stimulator, or PONS, has some simple electric circuitry in it that generates pulses that eventually go to the tongue through some electrodes.
So we're stimulating about 25,000 fibers from the tip of the tongue, from anterior part of the tongue, that through at least 2 cranial nerves go directly to the brain stem.
The device helps resynchronize noisy circuits and reawaken dormant ones. Then the brainstem, the master control center, can do its job and send normalized signals to other parts of the brain.
You know, the most popular statement about the brain, use it or lose it. If you seriously think about what's mean word use it for the brain doing only one thing, it's transferring signal from one point to another. We don't have a 100% proof, but main part of the brain and spinal cords become activated with this system. As a result of this activation, your brain becomes very receptive and sensitive to any exercise you're doing.
Now, hey! I really have to hit it. Yes, don't go in that water!
Then you put the pons in your mouth, and I got on the treadmill. And I was like, how could this be possible? You know, how could this be possible?
Good job.
It's a little bit alarming because things shouldn't change that fast based on all of our prior experience and what the literature tells us.
Yeah!
I called her and I was just like, you've got to come. This is life again. This is life. And that's what it gave me. It gave me back life.
Oh, that was unfair.
One of the things I thought of was my grandson.
Oh,
Being able to finally communicate with them.
yes.
I mean, who would have thought that would have been possible 9 years ago?
Yeah. It's actually probably Kathy make us believe that it's not coincidence, it's not placebo, for sure.
You don't know how good that feels.
But it's a real phenomenon.
Yuri came into the room and he asked me if I could stand up. And I thought he meant, can I get up off the floor? And I said, I'm not sure. I may need some help. And he said, no, I mean, can you stand for 20 minutes? And I thought the guy had lost his mind. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I was so exhausted. I thought that 20 minutes might never end. One of the persons working in the lab said, how are you feeling? And I looked at her to say, well, and then I realized that I had turned my head.
Which was the
I had
problem?
not moved my head in 5.5 years or so.
Mom. Yo. Take it down a notch. Okay.
Sorry. That was a pretty amazing feeling.
So the only explanation is there's something spontaneously that's being activated in the brain that has been somehow dormant and unable to respond to normal stimuli. In fact, is being suppressed because other external stimuli are causing the system to be overwhelmed. So the response to this overstimulation from all the other sensory processes is to shut down, to protect the system from overstimuli. Somehow we're able to activate the brain in a way that doesn't alert this reactive response and bring the normal processes back to play.
Jerry and Kathy continue to use the pons daily and continue to make progress.
You know, we really gotta keep doing this.
The key to Jerry and Kathy's recovery was using electrical stimulation to neuromodulate their noisy brains. But electrical stimulation is not the only form of energy that can help. It turns out that the brain can be rewired with sound.
Hey Kevin, it's Jordan. How's it going? Good, how are you? Not too bad. Just wondering what you needed. So did you need our Canada or US wire coordinates?
My name is Darlene Rosen. I'm Jordan's mother.
My name is Jordan Rosen.
No, Jordan.
He had no eye contact, no speech, huge temper tantrums. He's had stitches in his head twice from banging his head. Certain music he hated, and he would put his hands over his ears and run around the house screaming. No affection at all.
Jordan, look at mommy. Hello.
So what did the doctors say?
So I took him to a pediatrician who specialized in this, and she said, yes, he's autistic.
A psychiatrist agreed. Like most autistic kids, Jordan was hypersensitive to sound. Painful sound can put them into a constant fight or flight mode. The dogma was that autism was an exclusively genetic disorder and that nothing could fundamentally improve it.
Those statements have not been subjected to rigorous scientific investigation with the intention of seeing whether they're really true or not.
Eat your cheesies.
There's some kind of a bottleneck where the autism is created. My preferential sense of where that bottleneck is somewhere in between metabolism and brain waves, the electrical activity of the brain. By now, it's becoming clear that at least some children with autism get a lot better.
First of 5 rounds wins. Go.
This is the Listening Center in downtown Toronto, where they use energy and sound waves to help rewire the brain.
We are going to apply that better focusing to the sound of your own voice.
They mostly treat certain learning disorders and attention deficits with much success.
I'm sick. I have a bad cold that's inside of my head, and I think it's likely to stay.
But sometimes they can help children with autism, something once thought impossible.
They say sharing's a good thing to do.
The center's founder, Paul Madole, has adapted techniques he learned in France when he was young and battling dyslexia, a learning disorder.
I begin, and then you realize, because you heard that it was not sounding great. Right from the very, very early grade at school, I was not able to read. I think my parents have started giving up on me. At the last year of school, I was not even accepted as a student because I didn't have the grades.
Everything changed when he met Dr. Alfred Tomatis. Tomatis developed sound and music therapy to reawaken dormant parts of the brain, stimulate development of new circuits, and open them up to learning and language. The techniques Tomatis perfected worked so well on Paul that he dedicated his life to them.
Spin number 4 is coming.
If anything can be done to improve the way the child is going to sense himself, which means that improve listening, improve the sense of self, the child is going to have a better sense of other and going to start communicating better. The sound stimulation is one possibility.
Duncan Evans has been treated for autism at the Listening Center since he was a small child.
What would you have 3 in like today?
I'd like a black coffee, please.
At 18 months, he developed quite severe autism. He stopped making eye contact, lost interest in people, and stopped normal play.
Okay, so...
His language regressed, and he had rages.
he wouldn't be able to attend a typical school. He wouldn't be able to interact with others because, again, there was no speech. Duncan's now 20, and he was 3 when this happened.
Your black and coffee with nothing in it?
We went in the minivan down to the listening center, and 3 days in, he had only really ever shown a lot of emotion towards me. When he sought comfort, he came to me. When he was hurt, he came to me. He didn't really interact with a lot of other family members. And my husband came home that night, and Duncan hugged him for the first time in his entire life. So we knew we were on the right path.
At first, I thought I was a lot of pain in the butt, and I treated myself like a misfit. And when I've done something wrong that involves my autism, I cry. I had a lot to say, in that I wish I were dead, so then and no one else would deal with this anymore. But
Okay. Here.
Over time, I got over her, and then I just went and be myself.
We can use sound to selectively train and turn on dormant parts of the brain by altering the rhythm, changing frequencies, or even which ear receives the sound.
What we are trying to do is to make the auditory zoom to work. That is the ability to pick the sound, the information you need, and leave out those information you do not need.
You just heard Madol mention the auditory zoom. It's one of Tomatis's most important discoveries, that the ear is not a passive organ, but it has the audio equivalent of a zoom lens that allows it to focus on particular sounds while filtering out others. It's like when you first walk into a party. You hear a jumble of noises until you zoom in on a particular conversation.
So how far is that from San Francisco?
2 hours.
But if that auditory zoom doesn't work properly, the brain is flooded with non-differentiated sounds, which can be overwhelming, even threatening. The brain goes into survival mode, and it actually turns off its social circuits that allow us to engage with others. This is why such children can't connect to people, learn language, or soothe themselves normally. Sound can sculpt the plastic brain because the ear converts the information in the sound energy into similar electrical patterns. When you hear a pounding bass beat, your neurons fire in the same rhythm.
How about on the other side? Yeah, that's cute.
The first stage of treatment teaches the children to listen to filtered recordings of their mother's voices that replicate the first sounds heard in utero.
Will decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brain.
The mother's voice is for us a way to connect life before birth and life after birth, knowing that before he was born, the child was already able, physiologically speaking, to receive some part of the voice of the mother.
Don't worry, don't stew. Just go right along. You'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your
In the next stage, they train the auditory zoom by listening to electronically modified Mozart, which alternates between high frequencies then low frequencies. This trains the brain incrementally to differentiate human speech. They found that Mozart's use of violins produces the richest higher frequencies that are best for stimulating language development.
We are opening a pathway. We are removing all the distortions between the information coming from the world outside and the brain. Music is organized sound, and it has many of the specificity of language. Mozart had a duration, he had a volume, he had the tonal quality, he had the rhythm. Music is a preparation, is a precursor of language.
You know, many doctors are still telling parents that your child has autism, This is a lifelong incurable condition. There's no treatment, and you'll just have to get used to it, and eventually you'll have to institutionalize your child. That goes beyond the evidence.
I think Duncan is perfectly able to hold a job. He's going to carve his pace in his social surrounding. The more he's going to be exposed in spontaneous situation, in life situation, the more he's going to learn how to flow better with his speech. As we know, he's able to flow when he can put himself in someone else's skin.
And this is my James Earl Jones voice from doing a lot. I'm from the Lion King. And look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down from us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you. And so will I.
Wow.
Yeah.
Basically, this is the neuroplasticity in action.
Oh, I can't believe I just did that.
With sound therapy, Duncan went from moderately severe autism down to a milder form. Sound therapy doesn't work for everyone. There are many kinds of autism, but in rare cases, it's extraordinary.
Did you go to a concert tonight? Yeah. Did you sing?
Yes, I did.
You did?
After Jordan went through his therapy, he completely fell off the autistic spectrum. He lost his language delay, regained eye contact, his play normalized, and he started to do well in school and develop full relationships.
Any other songs?
Sure enough, in 2 weeks, Jordan got up in the middle of the night, jumped on our bed, wanted to play. He was very happy. And my husband and I were like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, why is this happening?
Get him, Jordan. Fight him.
When you try to imagine your way into what it was like for your mother and your father, what's your experience when you do that?
Yeah, incredible what they went through and what they had to do to get me where I am right now. I don't know, it must have been so difficult. I can't even imagine what they went through. I'm so sorry, Mom.
Remember that.
Jordan's brain was healed because sound stimulated and modulated his neurons.
Is that better?
Next, we'll meet a woman whose brain was healed with light.
Okay, thanks.
All life and growth depend on light. The ancient Egyptians knew that light could also heal. But heal the brain? How might light ever get through our thick skulls? And yet, we are learning we are not so opaque as we might think.
Okay, and feel the resonance up in here. So let's hear it. And do it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Breathe, and then we'll go up half time. And.
Well, I had a brain tumor. And my spine was wrapped around it like the letter C. And my cerebellum was squashed, and my swallowing nerve was stretched out.
Gabrielle had a tumor compressing the spinal cord, the brainstem, and her cerebellum, the part of the brain that controls the fine-tuning of movements and thoughts. She would require extremely delicate and challenging brain surgery in a very small area where most of the nerves are crucial to survival. The surgery saved Gabby's life, and luckily, the tumor was benign. But the necessary cutting to remove it led to an acquired brain injury.
Let's take the drunk out of it.
I couldn't really deal with anything. I couldn't deal with the sound. I couldn't deal with the light. I couldn't deal with movement. I couldn't walk at all. I couldn't sit straight. My speech was very slurred. I couldn't multitask. I didn't realize holding a glass and speaking to a person was multitasking. I could either do one or the other.
Music, which had been her chief joy, became unbearable. It was more like painful noise than notes. She couldn't walk, and she was chronically exhausted and nauseous all the time.
I had to put in my BlackBerry a recurring appointment when to eat lunch and when to eat dinner, because I would start to move through space and I would see something I would need to do and I would forget where I was going. And then at some points I go, oh, I think I was going to have dinner. It's the kind of thing other people can't imagine. How could you forget?
The doctors told her any progress would plateau at 24 months. But 25 months after her surgery, she was still totally disabled and could barely leave her home. She struggled to figure out how to get her old life back. And then she heard about the light therapy.
So you're getting some very beneficial treatment this morning.
This is Dr. Fred Kahn, a vascular surgeon until he switched full-time to developing low-intensity lasers to treat the body and the brain. Hot lasers burn flesh, but cool lasers can heal it.
This carries a lot of photon particles of energy into the brain where they interact with the tissues. So it produces a very beneficial neuromodulation type effect.
Photons get into the brain in two ways: directly through the skull and via the bloodstream.
And comfortable. A diode is similar to a light bulb, but it has certain components within that generate the emission of photon particles of energy. It's a matter of defining the light in a very specific and refined way. Power isn't the solution. The subtlety of delivery is.
The first step is to place the goggles, and they will block any red or near-infrared photons. When you look through them, it's very similar to looking through night vision goggles.
In Boston, Dr. Margaret Nazer has used different configurations of LED light to help people with traumatic brain injuries and stroke.
It's very comfortable, really, and there's fans that are built in. These are all fans. We have so many soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan who have traumatic brain injury. This is one of the intranasals. So we want to apply light to the brain outside the skull. You're comfortable? To see if we can improve the cellular function so that their communication and their cognitive skills, their thinking can be improved. The near-infrared that we put on the ears. We're trying to get to the deeper parts of the brain. We're trying to get to the medial temporal lobes as the inside of the temporal lobes. And there's a memory node in there, a very important part of memory, a network. There are 1.7 million cases of traumatic brain injury now in the United States, and we don't have really good treatments for them. We give them cognitive rehabilitation therapy, which is very important, but we are doing the photon work and the light-emitting diode therapy to try to give the cells more energy to work with.
Need me to lift my head?
Yep.
Perfect. After my first session, the nausea went away. And what was interesting is even though I knew when it was extreme, or even though obviously I knew when I threw up, I didn't realize even though I was getting better, there was this low level that never went away. And when it stopped, I'm like, oh my God, I've been nauseous for 25 months.
Healing can occur in several ways.
Switch this around.
Low-intensity lasers and LED lights can activate DNA synthesis in cells.
Is that better?
They also release serotonin and other brain chemicals, and they unblock chronic inflammation.
When I used to come to Dr. Kahn, first of all, I was coming in a walker, and when I wasn't coming in a walker, I was using a cane, people were helping me. I certainly couldn't get through the revolving door. And through the various stages of progress, one day I noticed myself walking through the revolving door. So for me to even start the door and continue the door, and especially if someone came behind me and they'd be quick, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So what happened with the light is instead of living in this range, I was living in this range. And not only was that happening, it was moving, and it's still moving. So I'm living in a completely different place. It's much closer to being a normal person, whereas before it was almost like being dead.
I think the surgeon did an excellent job. The type of tumor she had, very complex, difficult to remove, and never without some sort of damage. So she was still alive, but as we both know, restricted with regard to all activities and really leading a normal life.
Gabby is back with the choir, even though she sometimes still needs to manage the sensory overload. She finds that by reducing the input from one sense, her vision, she can better manage the input from another, her hearing. Fredcon has since treated scores of concussions and brain injuries, promoting key stages of neuroplastic healing, improving general cellular health, and neuromodulating the noisy brain.
The refinement of the technology is something that will go on for many years. I'm presented with a lot of medical challenges that traditional medicine doesn't help. And if you don't try to help them, they won't get better.
By understanding neuroplastic healing, we are expanding the number of people we can help. But there is one more stage of neuroplastic healing. And understanding it changed the life of a family whose daughter's devastating birth defect would have left her institutionalized for life if it wasn't for a genius who understood that touch and subtle movement could rewire the brain.
How about a kiss?
Feel your eyes. And very, very slowly, just allow the eyes to open and look up at the ceiling somewhere and find something, some detail that you can anchor your eyes on.
In this class, participants are practicing the Feldenkrais method.
And just roll your head a little bit left and right.
It's based on the fact that the mind, brain, and body always work together because neural pathways to and from the brain are spread throughout the body.
To have relaxed eyes, what it feels like, and maintain that. Eventually it becomes automatic. It's the engagement of the prefrontal cortex to reorganize the chaos of the central nervous system. And that's precisely what the method is designed to do. It works brilliantly to integrate thinking, visualization, our relationships, movement in space, movement of the body with thinking and feeling and sensing. But in order to be able to catch the ball, you have to be activating the peripheral visual system, which
It's a technique designed by the late Moshe Feldenkrais that uses mental awareness of movement and touch sensation to help serious brain problems. Moshe Feldenkrais was a brilliant physicist from the Ukraine who studied at the Sorbonne until 1940, when he fled the Nazi occupation of Paris. Feldenkrais had a bad knee from his soccer playing days, and it got worse during the war. But instead of having surgery, he developed his own self-awareness and movement techniques that alleviated the pain and allowed him to recover from his injury. Feldenkrais was one of the first people to realize that the brain is plastic and that the mind programs the brain. And he realized that thinking, sensing, and bodily movement always occur together, and that increasing our awareness of movement is the key to improving movement. Little Elizabeth Natanshone was born missing 1/3 of her cerebellum. Feldenkrais discovered that people who are missing that brain area, or who suffer from cerebral palsy or stroke, can lose or never develop brain circuits that allow them to move properly.
Elizabeth, tell me about the condition you were born with.
Well, a condition I was born with called cerebellar hypoplasia basically means my cerebellum was underdeveloped. And as you know, the cerebellum controls movement, balance, coordination, a whole host of other things. So when I was born, I didn't have much muscle tone, I had no movement, no coordination, all of the things basically that the cerebellum has a hand in.
But that has 80% of the neurons in the brain in it. That's a lot.
So it's a lot, it is.
We went a month later after her birth to Mass General to see a pediatric neurologist there.
He said she's profoundly retarded. She has global brain damage. She'll never develop. She'll have to be institutionalized. It gives me goosebumps now. Thankfully, I haven't thought about this for a long time.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
We felt we were going to be the classic parents chasing for miracles that don't exist. But in point of fact, we had heard about Feldenkrais through somebody we knew in Toronto.
I let her go to daddy as much as she likes. From there to daddy by herself. Doesn't matter how, take an hour. And she may cry $50. She will do it.
And he saw me, and I guess that was it. He said, I can help her. She's a neurological mess, but I can fix her. The way I like to think of it is that every movement I do, every movement I know was introduced by Feldenkrais. I didn't really have movement until he found me.
Don't you worry, she will improve. You're a lovely girl thing. And by the way, you're very clever, you know.
Early on when we saw Moshe, and we were very concerned, obviously, about her prognosis, Moshe said, she's a very clever girl. She'll dance at her wedding. And we figured if we have to wait 20-some years, if she can dance at her wedding, we'll happily
We would have been
wait.
happy to wait 80-something years, as long as it took.
Right, right.
And the key to helping Elizabeth was helping her undergo an essential stage of neuroplastic healing that I call neurodifferentiation. Babies don't have fine motor skills. Their movements only become precise as they differentiate them and become aware of the smallest differences between moving fingers and limbs, thus building up detailed brain maps for those movements.
Excellent, that's clever. Come on, take the bottle.
When a brain is injured, the way Elizabeth's was at birth, making any movement hard, the maps have no opportunity to develop. Thus, the brain's signals to the body are imprecise. Some muscles are undercontracting, and others are spastic.
Go and get daddy.
He took my finger and put it behind her ankle, and he said, feel that? And there was like a knot of muscle. He said, you'll see if we loosen that up, she'll be able to bend her leg, and she'll begin to creep. And he said, as soon as she does that, you'll see her demeanor will change. Within a day, she started to creep. And it became apparent that this was not magic. This was something which he explained in a logical way and was a rational process and would yield results.
Feldenkrais believed that when a person was relaxed, the brain could most easily detect the small movements necessary to differentiate the brain maps.
Is it daddy now or mommy?
And that was the major component of Feldenkrais is touch. And it's a very soft touch, but it creates neural pathways, it creates, it's the most intimate form that we have. And I think perhaps that's why there is the connection. And maybe it's not such an intellectual connection as it is a somatic, emotional connection.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. He thought that the mind and the brain and the body were an inseparable whole, and that when he was engaging people through the body, he was engaging brain and mind simultaneously.
What Feldenkrais knew is that in order to get results, you have to have the body talk to the brain. You ready? Oh, good boy.
Basically, he said there's incredible redundancy in the brain. So if one part isn't working, you can train another part to take over. We continued after Feldenkrais' death with Anat Baniel, who had been his assistant. And fortunately, she could continue what he started. And that went on for years.
Friends and family, we're going to invite up the bride and groom to dance their first dance as husband and wife.
Did your parents tell you all the things that doctors had said, that you'd be institutionalized, that you would probably be, at best, mentally retarded?
They did. I don't remember what age I was. I think it was later. I think I was probably a teenager already. I think I must have known, obviously, that something was different, something was wrong, but it wasn't on my radar in a way that was, oh, I have something and pity me and oh my God, I'm never gonna overcome. It was just something that I was working at getting through life.
These are the stages of neuroplastic healing: addressing the health of brain cells, neurostimulating dormant pathways, modulating the noisy brain, and finally, differentiating the brain maps so that they can make the fine distinctions that they were meant to make.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing works for everyone. This is because we're all different, and no two brain problems or injuries are identical. But we can learn an immense amount from these people who were told they'd never get better. The word healing comes from the Old English, helen, and it means not just cure, but to make whole again. It's about restoring lost functions. And when I think of the people we've just met, this is what they said happened to them. They almost to a person told me, I feel like I got my life back.